everybody. Welcome to OK Every Day, a podcast about TA or transactional analysis where we continue diving into how to make our lives okay every day. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Ollie.
Today, our topic is
Negative thinking and the stroke profile.
negative thinking and the
Mhm.
stroke profile. Now, this continues our stroking series of season two. And negative thinking isn't necessarily something, it transcends a lot of areas of psychology. So not only in transaction analysis do you come up with negative thinking or challenge it. So when you say transactional analysis and the stroking profile, where should we start from?
Yeah, and you're spot on, Ollie, because negative thinking is vast, right? In
Mm.
in the human world. And pre-warning to the audience, this may be a long one. This episode may we don't know how long it's going to be. We might break it up into two because negative thinking is so vast. I mean, when I'm talking to people about it, I don't know how many animals in the animal kingdom do negative thinking, but humans, we'd score an A+ in an exam on negative thinking. We just do negative thinking really well, which is not great, unfortunately. It's not great. So we're going to wander into different parts of our worlds, but it's why we chose it. This episode is it follows on
Right.
quite lovely from the last episode with the stroke profile
Mm.
in relation to how does our stroke profile get set up? Why
Right.
is it that we might end up kind of accepting more negative strokes
Mm.
than positives? Why is it that we might be challenging positive strokes as
Ooh.
opposed to just accepting them? So where does all that come from? And the reality is, when you drill into it, negative thinking is like a habit and a pattern that develops that starts to feed into that, right?
I like that you mentioned it's a habit, and I think this also goes to a lot of the episodes that we were talking about around the theory of TA and how to apply it. It comes down to practice, intentional practice of changing habits, be it learning how to receive compliments, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's or being as we discussed in last episodes of my stroke profile, my personal stroke profile is asking for strokes,
Mm,
asking for positive strokes and understanding where I could, or negative strokes to understand where I could get better, which is
yeah.
also pretty cool.
But that's it. And really that's at the heart of transaction analysis is uh, it's behavior change.
Mm,
And behaviors just come from a set of things being set up, which we can then change later on. If you think about even the skill of contracting,
yeah.
that's just a skill that you repeat over and over. Often we do a lot of it in work, in the workplace, but we can do
Hmm.
it in our private lives too. We can do it with our kids. Do you know what I mean? Kind of make agreements and start to negotiate, which we'd call contracting. And it's just a skill. And it's a very, very useful skill when it's very, very stressful. So I'm very much
Hmm.
looking forward to today, kind of getting into pulling apart, if you will, the stroke profile again, but using this lens of negative thinking to see what's it doing there, and how can we change it? How can we practice new versions to get better in different areas?
Right. And so if we go into the stroke profile
Mhm.
once more, coming back to it, would we mostly talk about the bottom, so the bottom part of
Correct.
it, so the negative stroke, or is it both? Does negative thinking touch both of the positive and negative strokes?
Great question. Great question. Because yeah, most people would go straight to the bottom of the
Right.
stroke profile, which is about negative strokes, right? So without a doubt, it plays a huge part there. There's no question about it. But
Right.
it also plays a big part in the top half, above the line stuff, in terms
Hmm.
of um, the unconscious thoughts and unconscious patterns that we might develop that don't allow us to accept or enjoy positive strokes,
Hmm.
don't allow us to ask for them. So there's negative
Hmm.
thinking in there, but it's not as obvious. The bottom
Right.
bit's very obvious, right? If we listen to ourselves, it's very obvious. But the top part, there is a lot of negative thinking that's holding us back, but it's mostly unconscious. And today, I hope we can kind of pull out a few examples of what might be going on kind of backstage, behind the scenes, um, that's challenging us around accepting or asking for positive strokes. That once we kind of a little bit like the Wizard of Oz, once we pull back the curtains, you go, "Ha! I see you there, and you don't
Nice.
belong there, you menacing
So,
figure."
the way I understand it is we'll also dive into today. We'll dive into understanding how we can spot that negative thinking and where it could be kind of hiding, lurking in the shadows. And
Absolutely, and a little bit of where did it come from? Because a lot of this stuff gets set up
mm.
when we're young, right? And that's why it's unconscious. It's in kind of the further recesses of our brain. So the more we kind of become conscious of it and call some stuff out, that's how we literally change our neural pathways, to be honest with you, because we're
hmm
we're we're using new ones and not just going down the old paths that we just learned to do.
Right, right. So where do we start from here then?
Actually, I just a caveat there. Actually, we might get into some stuff that we heard or learned or picked up or observed from parental figures, from
Right.
people of influence. We're not going to. This isn't about blame and criticism. Because equally they
Mm.
would have picked it up when they were younger. So it's not mom and dad, why did you set me up like this? No, that's not fair. They were learning on the job too, so they weren't conscious of it. But what we're talking about here is without blaming and criticizing people, we can still change our neural
Yep.
pathways, kind of change our coding. So I just wanted to put that there. So where to start today? Probably let's start at the bottom left of the stroke profile, which
Mhm.
was, if I remember, accepting negative strokes. Is
Yes,
it or is it
it's
giving?
how often do you give negative
Give.
strokes would be
Right.
the first one. So give, take or accept, ask and refuse.
Okay. So actually, then we'll start with the second column. I think makes most sense of the
Okay.
bottom half, which is accepting negative strokes. So
hmm
if somebody scores high on that, if they recognize if they well
I
your
used
first
to.
one,
I used to. I used to.
yeah, and it shows you the work you've done and shows you actually quite beautifully how it can change. But that column, how often do we accept negative strokes? And if we score very, very high on that, what that's saying is we let in a lot of negative strokes pretty much automatically.
Hmm.
We don't really question them. They just go in. If you imagine the bank account is like a deposit, it's just straight in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that, how did that come about? Why are we might just kind of naturally accept negative strokes, and I say naturally, it's more along automatically, because in reality, kids don't like them,
No.
but they learn to accept them. Now, why is that? Well, because it's a part of the world.
Hmm.
There's people who are used to thinking negatively and are used to saying things negatively, right? So
Right.
this would be mom, dad, teachers, older siblings, TV.
hmm
We're being influenced a lot now by TV. So there would be kind of characters um, in kind of soap operas where they'd intentionally be negative. They'd intentionally kind of put down and poo-poo and say, no, you can't, stop that, don't do this.
Sure.
So we start to learn that this is a part of the world.
Mm.
Because as young people, we're very open to being influenced. We start to kind of make it about ourselves, not just about the world. We can't differentiate the difference too much when early on. So when negative stuff is coming towards us as little people, we identify, we make it about us. We don't, we haven't got the kind of
The mechanisms yet to differentiate that, right? So
that's right.
it's if it's bad towards me, it's bad about me, and that's
Bingo.
kind of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. It must be something I've done.
Mm.
Is often a kind of a thought that a child might have, because a child's world is very much egocentric. It's about their world. You know
Right.
what I mean? So if some negativity is directed towards them, it must be about me. It must be something I've done that I didn't do well enough, that I'm not, competent enough. They wouldn't use that word. That's an adult word. So,
True.
like they might say, "Oh, I'm an idiot," or "I deserve this."
Mm.
So unfortunately, if there's a lot of negativity coming towards them, especially if they've done something that they thought they did well or right, and then they get this kind of no, 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 no. They start to go, okay, right, and they just start to accept these negative strokes, straight away.
Mm.
and it just starts to go in. So therefore, later on, so this then starts to set up their filter, let
Hmm.
these ones in, right?
Right.
So later on, when they when they start to grow and get bigger, and negative strokes comes towards them, but that filter's already open to go and let it in. They don't question it, or we don't question it.
Right. Yeah, we don't, and that's true. I think it's one of the reasons why my profile, the first
Mm.
stroking profile I ever did, was that heavy on taking in negative strokes or accepting negative strokes, was specifically because I didn't know any better. That was the paradigm that I kind of grew up with, and it was okay both in school, both
Mm.
via you mentioned TV, and the first thought I had before you even mentioned that was news.
Oh,
Mostly negative, isn't it? It's
oh
mostly
yeah.
very negative news around everything, global, local, whatever, and then weather forecast and sports. There there you go. That's
Even the weather's negative. The whole world is. But I agree. Like the news, I tend to tell people don't watch the news. Okay, if you watch it once a day or read it once a day and then leave it aside. Um, Especially on TV because it's just repetitive. They say the same negative stuff every 15 minutes. It's like goodness gracious, But we get so attuned to this.
right.
Um, and there's a twist in the tale too, Ollie, which is a bit unfortunate. Um, if the little person challenges it sometimes,
Oh.
they get pushed back. So they learn to stop challenging it, right?
Hmm.
So if a little person thinks, well, no, I can do this, or I think this is what should happen, or whatever, why are you telling me this? Why are you telling me not to do it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or that I can't do it? Why are you telling me this? So then the person with the influence, the older person, might say, well, we know better, or we're doing this for your sake, or we're protecting you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
then it
The
then
the
it
egg
goes.
the egg doesn't teach the chicken, right?
That's it. The egg doesn't teach the chicken. You know. Uh, that's a funny phrase. It always makes me laugh, that one. But that's it right there. You're a little person. Don't tell us what we
Yeah.
need to know. We tell you. So then the child kind of goes, okay, well then I better. It's for my own good, so I better not
Right.
challenge it.
Jason, you know what? Because we've been talking about children and parents and kind of more parental figures, not necessarily parents, but anyone who has authority and
Teachers, yeah.
children. Yeah, exactly. And children as us. I was wondering what, if any, or what kind of impact does it have on the different ego states, and how can we map those in terms of, stroke profiles? Or should we bring them in now or later on?
Well, we can touch on it because it does fit in. This is
Okay.
where a lot of this stuff sits,
Right.
which is in the ego states, right?
Right.
Because so when you think about a child, you're straight into the child ego state to a large degree. So the
Mm,
little person is trying to learn and develop, and there's a part of the child ego state which I love, which we'll do a session on later on down the line, called the little professor.
cool.
And the little professor is really trying to figure stuff out, you know what I mean? And really curious, why is the sky blue? It's always great. What is rain? What makes waves? Fantastic stuff. So that's the little professor trying to work away, you know.
Mhm.
But then now we call them parental figures, but they're not about the parents. They're just about the people in charge, really, at the time who
Right.
influence. Which is usually teachers to a large degree.
Mhm.
And imagine teachers under a lot of stress. They're not maybe working as well as they'd like. So they might say things too quickly.
The biggest revelation I've had when I was growing up is that teachers, parents, and everyone else, they're also people.
Oh my God. And stressed at times and trying to make it
Yes.
work, and get it wrong lots of times, right? Particularly teachers who are corralling in 20 odd kids or 30 odd kids. So it's quite difficult. But they form up our parent ego state. That's what's in
Right.
there. It's all these influences that we got that gave us messages
Mm,
about what to do, what not to do, how to get on, how to behave, how to be good, and how what not good is.
right.
So again, the little professors like kind of gets challenged by this stuff, and sometimes just makes decisions like, "Oh, I see. I'm not allowed put my opinion forward. Therefore, because my opinion either doesn't count or is wrong."
Right.
There's something
Right.
wrong with it, that
Mm,
I'm not big enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not whatever. So there's the setup for the stroke profile for later on when the person might kind of put something forward and go, oh no, better not. Or they might put something forward and get a negative response and go, oh, see, I knew it. I didn't know what I was talking about.
Mm.
It's a bit,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I think it also sounds like you mentioned the little professor, and I would really love to have an episode on that because
Yeah,
I think it's a really cool part of the child, right?
big
Of the
time.
child ego state. And I think that a lot of the times when this happens, that little professor is kind of discouraged, right? So
Mm.
it's not it's like, yeah, don't come with me with all your questions of why rain is rain and what waves made of. You know, it's like no.
But it
But,
challenges
but a
it
lot of the
challenges the
time.
person to know they don't know.
Yeah,
So
and truly, I mean, I remember my son. I'm sure all the parents have gone through this in some way. It's like he'd ask me like, "Why is the grass green? And why is the sky blue?" And it's like, I don't know. I wasn't attentive in physics class, you know. So like, let's figure out together. Let's try to figure out what it is, and that's a different approach, but it does help sometimes.
yeah, yeah. But so that then forms up the one part of the stroke profile, which
Right.
is being too open to accepting negative strokes, right?
Mm.
Unconsciously, remember, this was all set
Hmm.
up way back. So the idea of the stroke profile, like with yourself, Ollie, is, and anybody who's done it, is to first of all map it out so you see it, and then change the bits you want to change,
True.
and
Yeah.
practice some other things which we're going to talk about, right? So
Yes.
that's the first entry point.
Hmm.
Um, Now I wonder, what do you think? Will we do the top version of that?
Let's do the tough version of that. I think
Oh,
it's a good because when we think about negative thinking, when we talk about negative thinking, it's usually my head straight went to the bottom part of
mm,
the stroking profile, but it's not only there, right? So it's also in the top part, and I think it's good to identify these examples, phrases, pitfalls where we can fall into even in the positive of say
mm-mm.
accepting positive strokes. Where can that go? Where can that go wrong?
Yeah, yeah. So let's look at that one. Accepting positive strokes, which is the top part of what we just talked about.
Yes.
And say a person scored low on
Hmm.
that, you know, logically you think, well, why would somebody not accept positive strokes?
Hmm.
In a way, it seems like a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you just accept, because aren't positive strokes nice? Joe, isn't somebody being nice when they do it, right? But how many people have experienced,
Oh,
um, the difficulty
oh
of
God.
accepting a compliment, right?
Do they really mean what they're saying?
Or can I trust? Can I trust they actually think I look well? What are they
Mm,
after? Woo, so it moves into mistrust stuff. Or birthdays. How many people don't like
don't
celebrating
like
their
birthdays.
birthdays or receiving gifts?
Mm.
That everything suddenly gets awkward. Um, you know, it's like, why is that? Why aren't we kind of just kind of going, yeah, thanks. Well, it's because there's this whole set of negative thinking that's going on, again, behind the scenes, this case
Mm.
very unconsciously,
Hmm.
that we're not aware of. So these kind of messages saying, don't accept it.
Hmm.
Be careful accepting it. You don't deserve it, right? That could be a real nasty one that's sitting
That's
behind
the
the
phrase
scenes.
that came, and I think that phrase came to mind. I don't deserve this, and a scene from a brilliant cartoon or animation movie, Inside Out,
Mm,
especially the second part. And I won't give too much away, but there it goes into the cycle, and there's these strings that pulled, and all these phrases come out. I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough, and like those phrases go. What you kind of listen to them as like, yep, I know that feel. I know that experience, and it doesn't feel very nice. It doesn't feel good at all.
no, and they're real stoppers. You see,
Mm,
they stop the energy. So in this case, it would be positive energy. Somebody said something nice to you. It could be a friend, could be family member, could be whoever.
mm,
Like
hmm.
people you trust, but still, you know, it might
Yeah,
the stopper comes in, and that then limits the positive strokes. The positive strokes can't get in past this filter.
right,
It's like, you
right.
don't deserve it. You're not good enough. It just stops, right? To
Hmm.
maintain the old kind of software, just to maintain the old learning, as opposed to realizing I don't need to do that anymore. I can actually practice something new. I'm not a little person anymore. I've got a lot of experience. So then we start to change it
Hmm.
by practicing accepting it,
Hmm.
or hearing those negative thoughts and kind of blasting them out of the water. No, thank you. A bit like you hit my battleship. Yes, got it. But those of you who played Battleship as a young person, I haven't played it in years.
Or noughts and crosses.
Or noughts and crosses. Yes, got it. You know?
Uh, but how would, because for me, I think the bigger question in this would be how to identify and in the moment
Mm.
understand, right, you know what, I think I'm thinking a negative thought. Or that's negative thinking. Because in the moment, sometimes it's not as rational. As you mentioned, a lot of this is so subconscious that it's very difficult to identify.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the moment and kind of it's emotional or something triggers you or whatnot. So how would one? What are some strategies or some possibilities to notice them, notice these negative thoughts?
Yeah. So when I'm working with people, I don't straight off the bat go for do this in the moment,
Okay.
because you need to change some, you need to build up to that, right? that's
Mm,
that's the kind of end goal, is
right.
you more often are able to notice it in the moment, but don't go straight for there, right?
Mm,
It's a little bit like people get mistaken, right? That they think, oh, I shouldn't think negative thoughts, right? So I'll think positive thoughts. So they think a negative thought and go, I need to think a positive thought. I can't. I'm an idiot, right? So they're straight
oh
back
my
into the
God.
negative thoughts, right? So something wrong with me. I can't think of a positive thought. It's like, okay, slow down, because you need to kind of. It's a big step just to recognize them in the first place.
Mm,
So
hmm.
that's self awareness. That step towards just recognizing, and sometimes it's after the fact.
Right.
Sometimes it's after a
Yep.
conversation or after a behavior. So you might be sitting in a meeting, and you went to say something, and you held yourself back.
Hmm.
Um, Later on in that meeting, you might think, actually, I probably could have intervened there. So
Hmm.
da da da. Why didn't I? Oh, I had these messages that said, "Don't speak
Right.
up. Don't you don't embarrass yourself. You got nothing to say." Da, da, da. So that step is important just to recognize, because then we can say, okay, next time I'm going to try something different. Next time I'm in a meeting, I got something I think is worth saying, I'm actually going to say it, right? And then I'm going to give myself kudos for saying it.
Hmm.
Give
Because
myself
I
a pat on
made
the
the
back.
attempt.
Bingo.
Hmm.
So it's more like a process, right, of
Mm,
of of practice, of habit changing, and then eventually later on down the line, the habit just sets in, where I feel much more open to saying something without thinking negatively, without worrying about
right.
it, right?
Right.
So it is a process, but that first step to think, why, to be curious, and this actually gets into
Mm,
our little professor. Why didn't I um, say something, or why didn't I accept that compliment?
hmm.
What's going on in me? What are the messages that I'm giving myself, right?
Wow.
And then I can start to pick them off.
I really like that. And I would extend this invitation to our listeners and viewers that if this is something that you'd like to work on, find moments in your day, week, whatnot, to reflect on what happened in the previous day, in the previous few days, in the previous weeks or month, where you felt this kind of, oh, maybe that negative, I don't think spiders are negative, but that negative spider came in and said, wow, don't do that, or don't accept that stroke.
I'm glad you said that spiders are
Spiders are good. I like them.
they're just spiders.
They're just spiders.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the image of this creepy crawly came in,
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. Because they do. That's a great analogy, because the negative thoughts, they do creep in. It is
Mm,
like tendrils in our brain. Like, like our neural paths are huge. So there's loads of them. So,
right.
and lots of them could be towards negative thinking, right? So that's a great analogy, because what we're doing is pulling back from sending energy down those tendrils, to kind of reflect on it. And
Right.
the invitation is beautiful, Ollie. And I would say, if I'd say to anybody, if you're reflecting, try and get into your little professor, which means don't judge yourself, right? Just be
Mm,
curious,
hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because the word, what you don't want is, oh, I think I was doing negative thinking. Oh, I always do negative thinking. What am I to do? It's like, no, no, stop. You're just feeding that train of thought. So get into just be curious. Was I? Maybe I was. And do I still want to? Maybe I can try something different, you know. So it's much kind of freer energy, isn't it?
Yeah, it does sound free. It sounded like this Mr. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh yeah.
I always confuse them. Uh, but it kind of the Hulk and Bruce Banner kind of same-ish, It's like
I like the
then it
Hulk.
could,
He's a nice guy. I know he's a
I
little angry.
he's a little angry, a little green, but then again, like he's pretty fun. But
He's
it
got a
kind of
sense of
turns
soul,
in
that guy.
turns into something that you just don't stop, and it comes back to, oh, I'm this, I'm that. I can't even start thinking nice about myself or others, or I can't accept compliments. What's wrong with me? And like that's not the intent, right? So it's
Yeah,
the intent is otherwise. It's kind of what you're saying is rather than changing it 180, is taking step by step by step to
that's
understand, okay,
right. That's
this is
right.
where it happened. Okay, this is where it happened. Okay, this is where it happened, and kind of take it like bite-size chunks rather
That's
than
yeah.
eating the whole elephant.
Yeah. Oh, a fun size.
Fun size, yeah.
That might not be that much fun, but I did
Yeah.
like the idea of it, the reframe that, oh, it could be fun size bites, yeah, of negativity that you swallow and or actually regurgitate, get rid of. It's funny when you're saying that. I just remind me. I just the other night watched I think the movie The Thunderbolts. I don't know if you've seen that. It's
Oh,
only just
I've
new.
not. I really want to watch it.
Excellent movie, great, a lot of great humor, but it was quite impressive when things turn dark. I won't give away the movie, but when it goes real dark, the figure is so dark. It was like, wow, they've really hit on something here. And the reasons for the darkness is a ton of negative thoughts and negative
Mm,
experiences that are being replayed over and over again in a very kind of extreme way. But we all have these negative kind of patterns, and like you were saying, Ali, it's not a race to change them because it took years for them to get in there, right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
it's more of a more like a marathon rather than a sprint, you know.
Right,
Um, so it's about building up awareness. It's about choosing a different
right.
path, like you did, like beautifully in your stroke profile around
Thank you.
um, accepting more strokes.
Mm.
Remember you talked about the one about asking for.
Asking for strokes, I didn't even know it was possible, right? So I didn't even know that was a thing that you can ask for strokes. And that was kind of was opening a new world for me. Oh, so you can ask for this because the only thing I could imagine you could have asked for was a beating, so, or well, not a beating, but kind of negative strokes
An
were okay
emotional
to ask
beating in
for.
a way, yeah.
Emotional, yes, emotional beating, but negative strokes were okay to ask for. Positives, not so much. And I think once you allow, and a lot of it was around negative thinking generally. So it was like I was even looking for negative
Mm,
things
mm, mm.
and so it was all, don't want to say it was all negative because there was a lot of positives at all,
Yeah,
but overall, but a lot of negative thinking was there. And it was around not being able to accept, not being able to ask for positive strokes
yeah.
or
Even
and
imagine asking for positive strokes, right? That
imagine
was,
for asking and holding everything in the bottom side of the stroking profile as true. So all the negative
oh
strokes
yeah,
that
yeah,
came in
yeah,
was kind of, oh yeah, well that makes sense. Of
yeah,
course. Well,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, of course I don't have a degree in physics, so I can't answer that question. Only a degree in physics can answer that question.
I mean, again, this is it, isn't it? Like, and it's for all of us, that
Mm,
when this stroke filter sets in and when our stroke profile starts to develop in a certain way, um,
mm,
it's self-reinforcing, so it feeds itself. Do you know what I mean? So
right.
if the food that's being offered is negative and
Mm,
we're weighted towards negative, we're just going to keep on feeding that, you know,
mm,
until we realize actually no, there's a whole different way of eating. There's lots of different foods out there
true, true.
that I just wasn't brought up on, but I can try it out. And one of them, of course, is you know asking for positive strokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
again, if we think why don't people ask for positive strokes? What's going on that's kind of forbidding them to ask
Mm-hmm.
for positive strokes? Well, here again is this unconscious negative thought pattern,
Right.
that it's not okay to
Mm-hmm.
ask for positive strokes, or there's something wrong with you,
Bingo.
or this, or What else comes to mind? What are the kind of messages that might come to mind to stop that one?
Oh, stop bragging or
Mm,
don't, it's like to an extent of something that's not it's not indecent of some
yeah,
sorts to ask for something good. For
yeah,
for someone to say something good about you, no way.
yeah. It's like who are you to put this pressure on me to tell you something? It's like what? Hang on.
And what I really liked about what you said is that it all comes down to maybe even when everyone's reflecting is just asking, did I feel okay in that moment? Did I actually act as if I'm okay or somebody
Mm,
else is okay? And I think once you answer that from the heart, it will let you know which direction to which was that negative thinking or was that actually something maybe that you could take into account? Was that a negative thought that really kind of let that spider crawl in and take over?
yeah, yeah, and that's a lovely kind of foundational thought. If we come back to the I'm okay, you're okay. Am I
Mm,
asking for a positive stroke from an okay basis that
yeah,
I'm okay,
right.
right? Uh, or am I asking it as a twisted way that I'm not okay, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking somebody for positive stroke, kind of knowing they're not going to give it, or that
Mm.
they're, even if they give it, I'm not going to believe it, and so that's the kind of negative stuff that kind of sets in there, you
True.
know, versus actually, no, I'm okay. And I think I've done a good job here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just going to put it out there. How do people think I went here? I
True.
think I think I did pretty well. Where do you think I did well?
Mm.
So it's kind of yeah, okay, I'm because I worked on it, so I just, I feel like, um, this was a good thing, and I just want to share it and see what other people think, and hopefully they'll give positive feedback, or not even feedback, just positive strokes that I let in without
And that
questioning them, right?
And yes, with letting in without questioning. And that I think that might be the hardest part, to be honest with you. It's letting in without questioning. And that would definitely require some practice and habit changing. Talking about the workspace, right?
Mm.
I think one example that came to mind before we started recording was brainstorming.
Okay, yeah, yeah, very important part of
So I
creativity and
love
work.
one of my favorite parts of any process is brainstorming, and it's the why behind I love it is a lot of the silly ideas or any kind of ideas, that don't really when you come back to the adult and you think about, yeah, that's a not a terrible idea, but it's not going to work. But a
Going
lot
to
of
cost a
those
lot of
ideas
money.
costs you a lot of money. But a lot of those ideas are like steps to getting to a better
Right.
one.
Yeah.
So they kind of build up together, and sometimes some wild phrase or some wild word can get you thinking about something completely different and gets you to the right place eventually. But the idea of brainstorming is generally just slurring out ideas and then seeing what would work, what wouldn't. So one of the examples that I had a lot of the time when we say, "Oh, let's start brainstorming," and we would, and then I would say like a few things, a few ideas, and they'd get shut down by, "Well, this hasn't worked before," or "Oh no, yeah, well, we won't be doing that for sure." And it's like. I was like, yeah, that's not the point of this. The point of this is more to have fun, and it's very discouraging, to be honest, as a recipient. And I've seen this on myself. I probably might have done it myself as well because we're all, we're all humans. We're
Yeah.
all follow sometimes similar patterns. But that's definitely discouraging. And I think that kind of it's not that I don't think it's a little professor. I believe it's the free child that works more in the brainstorming realm, right? So they just kind of, whoa, let's go creative and wild about this, and let's see where this can get us. Doo-doo, kind of
Yeah.
energy. And when every single idea or a lot of those ideas are discouraged, that discourages all the other free children in the room.
Mm, mm,
That
mm.
discourages and kind of then it's not a brainstorming, it's just a regular operations meeting, and let's talk about what worked before and might work in the future. Boom.
Yeah, it's a brilliant example because it's these negative responses, which is what they are creative killers, right?
Yeah.
It's like take, let's put oxygen on that, let's put water on that fire to kind of put it out. It's like, no, 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 we want to build this heat because there's great ideas that might come out of it. So, and as you said, it's very discouraging. It not only discourages the creative process, but Ollie, you might have sat there at times and gone and internalized and gone negative, because that's what
Hmm.
can happen. Somebody might put
Hmm.
out a couple of ideas and they get shot down, and then all of a sudden they're quiet and they're thinking in their head, "Oh Jesus, I
Yeah,
shouldn't put
why would I
forward." Or,
say anything if I get shut down?
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
and why
nothing.
would anyone say anything if they get shut down?
Yeah, yeah. Or obviously, my ideas are not that good or that important,
Mm.
or so this starts to feed into the negative part of the stroke profile. You know,
Hmm.
um, but of course, the other people in the group, they don't really, they're not conscious that they're doing this as such. If I stopped them in mid flow and said, "Are you trying to discourage this person?" They go, "No, no. What are you talking about? No, 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 no. I love his ideas." So they're not conscious that they're actually doing it, but the end result is
Right.
they are doing it,
Mm.
right? So this again is around awareness,
Hmm.
and slowing the process down if it's going off kilter. Around,
Hmm.
no, hang on, we agreed we're just going to brainstorm first.
Right.
We can pick it apart later, but let's be
Yes.
open. So to
Hmm.
um, because most of the time, the other people in the group will either be in their parental hat and go, no, no, we can't do that. That's that'll cost too much money, or we haven't got enough time, or right. So that's very parental. Or they'll be in their child ego state, which is, oh no, that'll cost too much money, we can't afford it, and
Mm.
too hard anyway.
Yeah.
As opposed to the adult, and the adult would be like, yeah, let's just kind of take 20 minutes and throw
Mm.
it all in, and nobody comment onto operationally whether it'll work or won't work, or whether it's, I love when you said, has it worked before. It's like, oh, that old chestnut.
Yeah, well, it's always worked before, so we shall use it now.
Stick to your groove, stick to your groove. But effectively, this is, they don't realize that they're doing a lot of negative thinking
Right.
associated with it.
Mm.
Maybe with a risk lens on, whatever. But at the end of the day, that's what's coming out. That
Mm.
then shuts down growth and creativity, and starts
Yes.
to reinforce the stroke profile,
Mm.
right?
I love that. And in a way, you mentioned it before in the episode today, is a lot of it would have to do with contracting, right? So did we agree to go all out and not care about the filter of what we're saying, just spit it out. Let's see where the ideas lead us. And I was kind of going a step further, imagining, oh, imagine if there were like a work scenario where so we go into a brainstorm, and let's imagine we're all the little free child, and we're trying to solve this task at hand, right? And that sounds like a pretty awesome idea to me.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if you've ever experienced. I've only experienced it twice, really. Design thinking, where
Mm,
they kind of just get you in, and you're not an expert on anything to do with what you're going to work on, but you just
right.
kind of, they get you into your free child
True.
and little professor, and you just go to town on making up the most
Go
wildest
wild.
ideas, and it's very freeing, right?
Yes.
You know,
Yes, indeed. Indeed it is. And I think one of the beautiful things that you kind of navigated us towards work examples, it's that you get a lot of negative thinking that I think it's masqueraded under the adult and very kind of
oh yeah,
productive, efficient kind of things. And a lot of criticism or negative strokes or whatnot can be masked as that, where in fact is more it's more towards negative thinking than anything else. And unfortunately I see it with a lot of people, and I would slip into that myself as well. That I think again, it's normal that it happens to every one of us. It's just how we react to it. I think it's the most important thing. But like phrases, if you hear phrases or anyone else hears phrases like "I'm too stupid, too new, too inexperienced to do the right thing," like no, you're not. We've all been in an inexperienced kind of way, but it's not the reason. You're here for a reason, so you can do the good thing, right? And like a lot of it is kind of self-inflicted negative thinking, which for some reason really hurts me. If someone else thinks bad about themselves, it hurts me kind of as their peer. I kind of I really want would love for people to think better of themselves, right? And say
Nice.
it has to be perfect or it's not worth doing. Like coming back to the brainstorming thing, like if it's a wacky idea, well, why not? Let's think about it. Or especially I see this with people that are joining the
Mhm.
team as like everyone is so much better than me, kind of
Ooh,
that
that, ugh.
imposter syndrome kind of thing.
Mm. That's, and unfortunately that fits into the last kind of column, which is
Right.
directly or indirectly asking for negative
Mm.
or positive strokes.
Yeah.
That last column is always the kind of hardest to get our heads around. It's a bit of it's reverse psychology in a way, but it actually plays out. So when a person puts forward um, phrases like that, like
Mm.
what was that last one you said there, Ollie, about?
Everyone is so much better than me.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a setup, right? An unconscious setup for
Mm.
negative strokes because already they're giving themselves negative strokes, right? So they're
Right.
saying, you know, there's something wrong with me. Everybody else is better, right? Now,
I'm not okay. You're okay.
correct, right? Absolutely. And of course, we do hear kids saying this as part
Mm.
of their learning process, especially say around sports. I'm no good. Everybody else is really good at the team. They're much bigger, much stronger, much faster, much so that this is a natural part of the child developing
Right.
is kind of because they feel hurt or when they're left out or they make a mistake or they for me for example having dyslexia and it not being diagnosed for a very long time
Mm.
I'd be way behind people's reading kind of level like in terms of reading out loud in class or maths, you know what I mean? So naturally I'm going to think there's a problem with me.
Yeah.
There's something wrong. Everybody else is much better. Now, unfortunately, it would be reinforced a little bit because people would kind of read faster or do maths faster. So it's naturally was going to get in. Thankfully, I got a some kind of tutelage to help me slow down and figure out how to do these things. So I started to catch up. But for that period of time, it was easy to kind of slip into, oh, there's something wrong with me, right? Because that's
Yeah.
naturally where the child's brain will go because it's children are um, self focused. You know what I mean? Their world is,
Mm.
is about them because they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, when stuff like this is reinforced, then later on, um, we play it out as grown-ups. Everybody else is much better at me than this, right?
Yeah.
That's
I'm not as strategic, I'm not as
Yep,
creative, I'm
yep,
not as organized, I'm not as this, as that.
yep.
Yep, yep,
So
yep.
unfortunately, it's I can't is kind of
Mm-hmm.
effectively what's coming out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's indirectly setting themselves up for negative strokes. And how this
Yeah.
works is they're already giving themselves a ton of negative strokes,
Right.
right? So if somebody tries to say, no, 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 you're good in this space, and da, 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 they might go, yeah, yeah, you're only saying that. They might think, yeah, well, you have to say that you're my manager. It's like, no, as opposed to slowing down and saying, why was I thinking that in the first place? What use is it
Mm.
for me to think everybody else is better at this than me? Like,
Yeah, it feels like sometimes it sometimes might feel as though you're walking in like a trap, a mouse
Mm,
trap place, so like, oh, no, I'm not good. No, it's okay. No, you're just saying that because you're a manager. No, I'm not
yeah,
saying that because, oh, well, yeah, well, you're
yeah,
just saying that because you're a kind person,
yeah, yeah.
like,
You're my wife, or it's like, no, stop. Come back and get to the root of it, which is
listen.
actually this was a negative thought in the first place. Do
Oh,
you know what I mean?
nice. Yes. Yes, yes, I do. And it's I think th this also one of the negative thinking that appears, a lot of it is past, it comes from the past, right? And it's in the moment. It kind of it's in it comes into the moment, but I also see this a lot of work. It's future based negative thinking, as in,
Mm,
so
mm,
what if I don't know what to tell the client? Like, okay. Do you always know what to tell your friends,
that's
or do
right.
you always
Yeah.
know? So sometimes it's okay not to know things, and for some reason that's taken as a negative, which kind of it's with a
Mm,
minus sign already. It's
yeah.
like, It's okay to not know something that a client tells you. You'll learn,
Yeah. The
and
answer
we
is
all
like,
do.
I don't know what to do. Therefore, I'm, negative, 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 negative. Fill in the words.
Yeah,
Useless,
very
can't
true.
think, inexperienced, like it's like that. But here's something for you that I've over the years kind of pieced together, which
Mm,
is, we will at times think negatively. That's just a given. As I said, for some reason our brain, unlike other animal brains, kind of just can feed on that, right? But I like to imagine sometimes when the unconscious offers a negative thought,
mm.
it could be your unconscious giving you an opportunity to change, right?
Beautiful.
It's like it's not like a gift, but it's saying, look here, listen to this, so you can do something about it, right?
Mhm.
And of course, we can if we slow down and start to kind of get to the root of that and change it going forward. So again, I always think the unconscious is trying to bring us into a thing called homeostasis, which is balance. So when
Isis.
physis and yeah, growth, it's just trying to get out.
Hmm.
Physis was trying to get out. But of course, some of this old kind of learning gets in the way of all patterns. So whenever we think a negative thought, maybe it's our unconscious saying, hey, listen to this, to change it, not accept it, to
Hmm.
change it.
Oh, that's very profound. When you mentioned about the other animals, I just fantasized for a second that a lion didn't catch his prey, and he's like, ah, stupid me. That's not what they do, is it?
So, or lion saying, I'm not going out hunting today. The weather, you know.
It's
Hey,
like,
where are you going,
oh,
lads? Hey, oh, they're
I'm
leaving me out.
I'm such a bad lion. Everyone's so much better than me. I don't think that's what they do, in all honesty.
I don't
But
believe.
I don't believe so.
No, I don't. I truly don't. I just think they get on with it.
I think, Jason, what you said, a negative thought is an opportunity to change it. That summarizes the last nearly 50 minutes
Great,
beautifully.
great.
And for this, dear viewers, dear listeners, thank you for being with us on this episode of OK Every Day, where Jason and I talked about negative thinking in the stroking profile and beyond, to be honest. If you like this video, please press that like button, share your thoughts in the comments. And if you're interested in TA content, you're in the right place because we're launching new episodes of TA driven podcasts where you can on Spotify and on YouTube, and we'll keep you informed of every new episode's coming out. In any case, we really hope that you stay okay
Every day.
every day.